See the various wonderful forms God has taken. The different qualities shown by different forms have given so many names to God. That is why there are innumerable names of God. He plays so many parts, takes so many forms. Who can fathom the Leela of God? His Leelas are infinite. Everything that you see is his form. All the animate and inanimate forms in and of this creation have been taken by him. It is like thousands of images and forms made from the same mud and named differently and used for different purposes. If an image of Ganapati is made, then that mass of mud is called Ganapati. And in due course, the qualities of Ganapati appear in that image. If a form of a serpent is given to the same mud, anybody seeing it actually feels the presence of a serpent. If the same mud is turned into the image of a tiger and kept in the forest in a suitable place, then travelers are bound to take it to be a real tiger and feel frightened. Thus, mud turned into a particular form and kept in a suitable setting is bound to create a particular effect on the person seeing it. But the person who has made these forms, or who knows that all those forms are just made out of mud, his mind is never affected by any of those forms. But the person who has made these forms, or who knows that all those forms are just made out of mud, his mind is never affected by any of those forms.
Upasni Maharaj was born as Kashinath Govinda Shastri on 15th May 1870 in Satara, India. As a boy, he would sit in the dark and meditate when his mind would formulate existential questions of identity, such as who am I and why was I born into a body? This latter question perplexed him to such a degree that he once decided to leave his body by starving himself. When his elders learned of this plan, they did their best to stabilize his restless mind. They thought that if he married, it might help him, and though only 12 years old, he was married. But the thoughts concerning this essential nature persisted to the extent that he could not focus his attention on his studies or show any interest in his new wife. So without informing anyone, he decided to leave home. He wandered to Nasik. A few months passed before his family discovered his whereabouts and brought him back home, and a few days after that, his first wife died.
Forbearance to its maximum means the attainment of the original. Forbearance to its maximum. Sometimes one gets crumbs of bread, while some other time, nice sweets. Sometimes one gets to eat, while at other times one has to fast. That is how things happen. One should allow things to happen. One should follow, be as it may. Be as it may. Whatever comes, one should accept it and go ahead. It is always better to have pain, to suffer. If you suffer with pleasure, you will get plenty of pleasure. Whosoever wants to be happy has to suffer for it first. That is why I tell everybody that comes here that they should not mind pain. 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 That they should not mind pain. 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 That they should not mind pain. They should patiently bear it, suffer it even with pleasure. They should never try for pleasure or happiness. They should always remain content with whatever they have. The most important mantra of mine is be as it may. I have been constantly saying that everything has two aspects. Night is opposed to day, and both these opposites together constitute a whole day. Nothing can change it. In the same way, pleasure is always associated with pain. If you want pleasure, you are bound to have pain as well. If you can accept pain with pleasure, it leads you to infinite God. This is Siddhanta. This is the way. Forbearance to its maximum. After all, God is the real owner of all that you have. And if He chooses to take away all or anything from it, how can you prevent Him? Be as it may.
Between the ages of 15 and 20, Kashinath repeatedly wandered away from home, returning months later, so his family again arranged a marriage to try and stabilize him. And during the periods he was at home, he showed an interest in Ayurvedic medicine. Then in 1890, at the age of 20, thoroughly dissatisfied with his present life, and under the pretext of going off to learn a trade, he decided to permanently leave home and set off towards the city of Pune. He stayed in Pune for some time, then set off towards Bombay, sleeping under trees, begging for his food, eating once only every 3 to 4 days. He decided to turn his wanderings towards Nasik, then restlessly decided to go back home again to see his ailing grandfather one last time. But he did not make it, for along the way he spotted a small cave on the side of a large hill, and thinking that this cave would be ideal place to meditate, climbed up the side of the hill, worked his way into that cave, closed his eyes and sat in meditation for the remainder of that day. He remained that way into the night, and again the next day, and the next night, still absorbed in meditation. Then on the third day, Kashinath lost all body consciousness and remained absorbed in the inner states. Kashinath remained absorbed like that, sitting in that cave, month after month after month.
There ain't no song to play, there ain't no
the objects that are seen in the world are, really speaking, non-existent.
There ain't no wine and booze. There ain't no bars, no cheap saloons.
They are the transformation of one's own mind.
There ain't no roads out west. There ain't no bridges, no tolls, no tests.
That is the Siddhanta.
There ain't no cars and trains. There ain't no tanks, no aeroplanes.
When can the objects of the world not be experienced? They will not be experienced only when one's mind, that transforms itself into those objects, itself becomes non-existent.
There ain't no cable TV. There ain't no shows and no big screen.
In the case of the persons who have attained this no-mind state, the mind does not transform itself into objects. To such persons, the world becomes non-existent.
There ain't no death and rape. There ain't no prisons and no probate.
If every person in the world attains this state, then the whole world would become completely non-existent. All would remain then in the state of infinite bliss and would emerge into that formless one.
There ain't no worry or stress. There ain't no nicotine, no depression.
I am myself in this state.
There ain't no walls between. There ain't no buildings, no halls, no beams.
When I am in the state opposite to that of the world, I become one and go on enjoying that pure, singular, infinite bliss.
'Cause it's all just life, living consciousness.
I experience myself to be pervading all, forming all.
'Cause it's all just life, living consciousness.
When no objects are seen, then in front of the eyes, utter darkness is experienced.
There ain't no church and state. There ain't no money, no big payday.
It is this darkness that brings forth the whole creation. It is this darkness that has been named Adi Maya, Adi Shakti, or the primordial Prakriti.
There ain't no jobs or trades. There ain't no schools to educate.
When the mind becomes fully stable, then the world is not seen. All thoughts about anything in and of the world automatically cease.
There ain't no notes to take. There ain't no schedule to keep, no.
Naturally, the pleasure and pain thereof and the body that suffers them become non-existent.
Because it's all just life, living consciousness.
This means that the root cause of all these merges into one's self.
Because it's all just life, living consciousness.
And with this, what remains is our self alone. Our self without any form or feeling. It is to experience our own real state that we had to evolve ourselves in the form of the world and experience the world. It thus becomes essential to experience the world first, and then experience our own real state.
There ain't no oceans or lakes. There ain't no storms and no earthquakes.
Our original selves had no experience of ourselves, in spite of being Sat Chit Ananda.
There ain't no big typhoons. There ain't no broken homes, no.
We ourselves are self-luminous, and our real nature is infinite, unending bliss.
There ain't no good and bad. There ain't no happy, no sad.
And that is what we experience. That is what we become.
There ain't no fool here singing. There ain't no song and no one's praying.
In deep sleep, the whole world merges in one's self. And on being awakened, one is able again to see one's body and the world.
'Cause it's all just life, living consciousness.
The state of unending bliss resembles deep sleep, but differs on one point. During deep sleep, the man is conscious of nothing, while in this state he is conscious of that infinite bliss.
It's all just life, living consciously.
I am explaining to you what I am actually experiencing.
Yeah, it's all just life, living its consciously.
Those that are qualified and listen to this talk will be benefited.
Because it's all just life.
They will experience that their minds are getting gradually purified, enabling them to qualify for that infinite bliss.
After 9 full months, Kashinath began to regain normal consciousness. And as consciousness returned to him, he found that he could not move his body except for a small movement of his right arm. The next sensation he felt was one of thirst, an incredible thirst, and no way to quench it. Fortunately, as destiny provided, it began to rain, and that rain collected on the floor of the cave. And with the slight movement of his right arm, he was able to scoop some of the rain into his mouth. And the rain quenched his thirst and began to revitalize him. Gradually, over the next few days, by rubbing his body with his right hand, he was released from the paralysis that had caged him. He then worked his way down the hill and crawling arrived at a nearby village. 2 weeks later, he returned to his town of Satana to discover a year had passed since he had left.
Many people say they are tired of worldly life, and many really are, but they do not like to suffer. Their attachment to their body does not decrease. So long as the body is loved, the cycle of births and deaths is there. And the worldly life is there. The love towards the body has got to go down first. To decrease the love towards the body, a crop of difficulties is most essential. One or two difficulties are no good, as one can either try and get over them or quietly bear them, forget all about them, and continue engrossed in his worldly way. Hence, a stream of difficulties must come in the way. They must go on coming together, one after another, in quick succession. It is then that one gets disgusted of the worldly life, the mind, and the jiva. It is then that his spiritual path becomes clear. This only means that it is the difficulties that play the part of the real guru. On approaching God, instead of requesting him for removal of difficulties, God should be requested to increase them, and that too in the form of a powerful, steady stream.
When Kashinath returned to Satara, he found that his grandfather was now very ill, and in a mood of helplessness and remorse, began to focus more on the study of Ayurveda. Then suddenly, his father died of a heart attack. 2 days later, his grandfather died, and then his second wife also passed away. Kashinath, now having no reason to stay in Satara, left to study Ayurvedic medicine, and in 3 years' time became established as a successful doctor. He also bowed to his mother's wishes and married for the 3rd time. His success grew, and he opened an Ayurvedic pharmacy, published a monthly journal of medicine, grew wealthy, purchased hundreds of acres of land, and a son was born. Kashinath had become a worldly success, was respected wherever he went for his knowledge of medicine, and yet never interrupted his spiritual practices of worship and meditation.
You may be taking me to be God, but I don't take myself to be anything like that. There should be no discrimination by God, and yet you see me driving people away. I prefer some near and others at a distance. I strike some and humor others. Hundreds of patients come here and I tell them to go to a doctor. Then some say I am the doctor for all the world. Well, if that is true, then when I look at a patient, he should become normal. Well, is it happening? It all shows that there is no real godhood here. But it is an imaginary charge. It is like being called a thief without having stolen anything. It is because I have acted in ways against the world that this false charge has come to my lot. No punishment is equal to being called a Sadguru, and yet I am undergoing it at my best. I do not take any godhood on me. It is only a charge put upon me. I must have troubled somebody. That is why this false charge has been put upon me. I remember an incident, a dream I had in my early days. I was a robust young man then. In those days, I went out on one festival of Ganesh, the Ganesha Chaturthi day. I went out with some others at night to see the idols installed at various places. It is ordained that on that night, one should not look at the moon. I began to question this rule within myself. I asked others, what would happen if the moon is seen by mistake? They said that if the moon is seen by mistake, by throwing stones on somebody's house, the error committed is mitigated. But I was an indifferent type of man. I looked at the moon intentionally, and I did not throw stones on any roof. I thought of testing the rule. Well, nothing happened. I returned home and went to bed. That night, in a dream, I saw Ganesh come to me with his mouse, and he told his mouse to attack me and nibble my body. I bowed to Ganesh in the dream, and as I bowed down, he struck me with his trunk and asked, Do the Shastras tell a lie? That rule was made by me. You saw the moon today in spite of my injunction. Now you have to be punished. You have to face a false charge now. I was frightened. In spite of my fear, I boldly asked Ganesh, You are called the remover of difficulties. Are you the remover or the inflictor? Ganesh calmed down. He said, My boy, since you have seen the moon, a false charge of petty theft is bound to come to you. But now you have put me to shame by asking me if I am a remover or giver of difficulties, when you know my name means a remover. So instead of some petty charge, I will put the most important and highest charge permanently on you. And with these words he disappeared, and I woke up frightened. Now I know that this, godhood, is the false charge I am submitted to bear. Even now, sometimes Ganesh tells me that this false charge is due to my seeing the moon that night. I say to him that I am neither God nor a Satguru. He said he was doing nothing on his own. He said that, due to my seeing the moon that night, you people here are putting that charge on me. I asked him what they will gain or lose by this. He said they will utilize it if they can find something to gain or lose in it. I told him I am very much troubled by it. He said, so? What can he do? I saw the moon, so I have to face the music. In short, it is a false charge of godhood. It is not true. To get out of it, I must throw stones at others. But now I feel that it would have been better if I had thrown stones on the houses that night. But it is no use crying over spilt milk. So I have given up throwing stones at others. But you people remind me of this false charge. I, of course, can't do anything about it.
Although a successful man, the life-saving rain that flowed into that cave was not meant to ensure Kashinath's worldly ambitions. In fact, his destiny would no longer allow a worldly life. Kashinath became involved in litigation and in a short period lost everything he had. He lost his practice, all his money, and all his land, and his son also died. His spiritual restlessness returned with greater compulsion, and with his wife's consent began wandering once again. Once, while meditating in a forest, Kashinath lost consciousness again, and upon regaining it, found he could not breathe in a normal, automatic manner. He had to force air in and out of his lungs by means of manipulating his stomach muscles. In constant distress from this malady, he sought out medical help everywhere, but with very little results. He then turned to seeking help from the renowned perfect master of Kedgaon, Narayan Maharaj. Narayan Maharaj cryptically asked him, "What are you roaming about for? What is remaining now? You are now the same within and without." Kashinath was intrigued, yet his respiratory problem remained. An advanced yogi, realizing that Kashinath's difficulty was due to his spiritual seeking, directed him to the great Sai Baba or Shirdi. And in that meeting between Kashinath and Sai Baba, Kashinath found that which compelled him to wander since his youth. He found his master and the destiny that lay before him. And he found the one that had sent the rain down years ago.
Even though I used to get good things, I used to overlook them. I used to take bad things and utilize them. I used to pass my days in the most dirty places, such as a cremation ground. I used to call these places as places belonging to God. I used to relish stale, fermented, thrown away food. Once when I was moving about naked in Shirdi, I came across a gunny sack, which was all besmirched with shit, vomit, and dirt. God knows if it had belonged to a cholera patient. As I took that piece of gunny, someone approached me and said, "That is a dirty patient's thrown away gunny. Why are you taking it?" Without paying any attention to him, I took it, went to the stream, washed it in water, dried it, and started using it like a beautiful, costly silk. There is nothing bad in the world. Whatever is there is good. And it is good because it has appeared spontaneously. One who thinks like this automatically attains the state of happiness. So even the bad can give the state of happiness. If the bad then can give the happiness, how then can it be labeled as bad? Good or bad depends on one's point of view. It depends on how we look at things. If then someone abuses us or defames us, instead of retaliating, it is better to call him good. There for comparison, to show the good. Hence, to call anything bad is false. That is why some people say, "Upazni Baba, your abuses do us good." I say to them, just as you consider my abuses as doing good, consider the abuses by anybody else as doing good. If you do so, you are bound to attain the highest.
Sai Baba ordered Kashinath to sit quietly in the Khandoba temple, an unused temple near Shirdi. Kashinath complied but had difficulty doing this and requested Sai Baba's permission to return home. Sai Baba would not permit it. He allowed Kashinath to visit him once a day, but he had to remain in the temple. Sai Baba told others that Kashinath would have to stay in the temple for 4 years. Sai Baba declared to them, "I have given him all I have. Whatever he is mine. There is no difference between us." For the first year, Kashinath would leave the temple at least once a day. But the following year, he remained in the temple, not leaving even once. He just sat there without food or water. The temple was dark, dusty. It was inhabited by snakes and scorpions, which would crawl over him and sting him, but he was immune to their bites. After 1 year living in that condition, he began to come out of the temple, still without eating or drinking, and began a period of engaging in hard physical labor, breaking stones and plowing fields with a yoke that was meant to be pulled by oxen, and sometimes beating those that approached him. It was during this time that he was given the name Upasni Maharaj by the local people. Upasni Maharaj, the king of austerities.
You call me God, but let me warn you. I am from the Khandoba temple. Maybe due to my destiny or due to the wishes of a Sadguru or whosoever is above me, I had to undergo punishment of being a Khandoba. And hence I was kept in the Khandoba temple. Khandoba means a eunuch. Eunuch is that who is incapable of enjoying a woman in the worldly way. In the old days, those that were incapable of enjoying a woman were called Shandas. They were not the real Shandas, however. The real Shandas is that who has become completely desireless. And that state brings on the state of Khandoba. Because Khandoba is eunuch, girls are offered to him. These girls are then called Muralis. What is Murali? Murali is the flute in the hand of Lord Krishna. Muralis thus attain the state of going beyond the world. There is the custom of offering girls to Khandoba. Khandoba being Parabrahma, the girls offered to him thus become the same. Khandoba means Shandoba, and the same is Vitoba. Vitoba is free, nude, unaffected in all aspects. In these days of Kali Yuga, Vitoba is considered to be of importance. It is he who leads to infinite bliss. I have talked about this already. The one whose mind, senses, are of no use from the worldly point of view, nor are they any use in attaining the pleasures in any of the worlds, becomes Shanda. The real Shanda is the real Brahma, the Para Brahma. He is Vitoba. He is the Khandoba. You should well remember this. I did not know all these secret arrangements, or else otherwise I would not have stopped in that temple. There at that time I began to think that I was sitting on a burning ghat. But you know what Sai Baba had said turned out to be true, that I would become the wife of Khandoba.
Alone back in the temple, Upasani had frequent occult experiences and visions. Once during the year 1913-14, he saw two giants in the temple. Frightened, he tried to escape from them, but one grabbed him, broke open his skull, pulled his brains out and flung them against the wall of the temple. Then the other one grabbed him, held him, and poured pure light back into his skull, replacing his mortal brain with divine light. The giants were sent by Sai Baba. The culmination of all the suffering in the temple was at an end. The vision represented the overcoming of the limitations of the human mind with the consciousness of the infinite. Kashinath, now Upasani Maharaj, had reached enlightenment. He had realized his unity with everyone and everything consciously. He now knew that there was no distance, no separation, no difference between his consciousness and God consciousness. Kashinath had become God. He had become totally free, and yet his destiny was not complete. For he now had the responsibility to return to normal consciousness while retaining his God consciousness in order to perform a service to the world. In December 1915, after Upasani's realization, he was sitting in the doorway of the Khandoba temple, waiting for a young man to approach him. He had never met this young man, nor did the young man have an appointment with him. Nevertheless, Upasani was waiting for him, and when the young man approached the temple, Upasani watched him until he was just the right distance away, and then heaved a stone at him. The stone hit the young man on his forehead, between the eyes, cutting him, and blood came from the young man's face. This young man was Meherwan Irani, and being hit by the stone was what he needed. For Upasani's stone helped Meherwan to start coming down to normal consciousness. That young man spent much of the next 7 years with Upasani Maharaj at Sakori, where Upasani established his ashram. When Upasani's work with the young man was done, he left for Pune and would not see Upasani again till 1941. That young man, Meherwan Irani, was the avatar and became known as Avatar Meher Baba. It was Upasani Maharaj's destiny to help Meher Baba integrate his God consciousness with ordinary man consciousness. Shortly after his work with Meher Baba was finished, he had a carpenter make him a bamboo cage, encaged himself in it, and did not leave that cage for over a year. It was from from this bamboo cage that Upasni Maharaj delivered these discourses. In October 1941, he had one last meeting with Meher Baba at a secluded mango orchard. 3 months after that, on December the 24th, 1941, he laid down his body and left this world forever.
We begin to like God, God begins to like us. God begins to like us. I am all naked from within and without. The only thing I fear in this world is a human being. The birds, beasts, wild animals, even serpents do not trouble me or frighten me. A human being is always full of faults and sins. That is why yogis always avoid them. There are many signs by which a sinful jiva can be known. The most prominent of all these signs is that they all trouble others unnecessarily and make others suffer and suffer themselves. They are full of abhimana, pride, foolishness, envy, etc. If a person puts into practice this first lesson, never to trouble anybody, then here is the next lesson for him. One should always be useful to others, even if it entails suffering. The third lesson is to always remain contented, to live in the state of be as it may. Be as it may. A person who digests these three lessons becomes famous within and without the world. He becomes qualified for all types of pleasures and happiness. It is worth remembering that to trouble anyone, however slightly, is like hitting your favorite god. And you acquire the sin of hitting or killing. Here is a very important maxim. Meaning, not to kill is the greatest of all religions. To trouble anybody is to become heir to sin. That is why it has been ruled that these three rules, not to trouble anybody in the least, to suffer for and be useful to others, to remain contented in the state of be as it may, should be observed sincerely. To observe these rules is to lead a life worth living. God begins to like us. Not to trouble anybody in the least, to suffer for and be useful to others, remain contented in the state of be as it may, should be observed sincerely. To observe these rules is to lead a life worth living. Many people read a book, but nothing is put into practice. What is the use of all that reading? Some begin to decipher the meaning of a book and assert their own interpretation as the correct one. But they should remember that a man who really understands becomes. That is the sign of real understanding. Whatever I talk here in a stray manner is advice which you can choose what you like from and improve yourself. This is sufficient for today. Go away now. Do something. Try to utilize all the indriyas, your senses, in the cause of God. Play cymbals and write the name of God. Use your eyes in looking at Him. Prepare your mind. Act up to what you have heard. Then you will get the result.